Have you ever struggled to separate your self-worth from your business performance? Today's episode dives into this common and often paralyzing issue. Running a business presents quite a few challenges, right? Figuring out pricing and overcoming pricing mistakes can be this huge thing. We can talk about failed launches, we can talk about not being able to monetize. All of these things show up, right? But what if there was a way to view these setbacks differently? I'm joined today by Kate Doster. Kate is the host of the Do the Brave Thing online business podcast. It's her soul and soul's mission to put money in the hands of good people so they can do good with it while eradicating the idea that nice people always finish last in business. By sharing spammer-free sales techniques that even your grandma would be proud of you for using and helping small but mighty online business owners propel their list and profits by hosting bundles. In this episode, we talk about strategies to detach personal worth from business outcomes. We redefine failure as data. We set flexible pricing strategies without creating resentment. We also explore bundle monetization and tripwires. This is such a good, authentic conversation that's going to give you hope, confidence, some practical tools to handle setbacks that come up so they don't become stumbling blocks. And then we talk about some free resources, the bundle that Kate is hosting that is live as of this moment. That was just so much fun to be a part of. It's a blast. So let's get to it. Kate, welcome to the Your Money, Your Life podcast. I'll have to say I was binging your podcast last night and I'm really excited for this conversation.
Why, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm very excited to be here.
So the first question I always like to ask when we start off is, the podcast is called Your Money, Your Life. So what does Your Money, Your Life mean to you?
I think for me, it comes down to, I feel like every entrepreneur probably has like a similar answer. Like the Your Money, Your Life really comes down to when it comes to like earning money and having money, it's really just about like the choices and freedom that it can bring. As someone that started their business as a mom on welfare, I can tell you that while there is such thing as more money, more problems, there's a lot more stressful problems I find when there isn't money. Like Everclear said, I don't think people had the joy of a welfare Christmas before. So all my millennials are now like, oh man, I remember that song. Yeah, right. So for me, money really is about choice and about relaxation. So that way, like, you don't have to make a decision based on money, but you can actually make it based on other factors, right? Like just preference or comfort or being able to do that. So that's truly what it means to me.
Yeah, I love that. And as somebody, when my second son was born, we were on SSI for a little bit, Social Security Disability. And it's like the number of hoops that we had to jump through and like all of the programs, because there was a time we were on food stamps, there was a time we were on WIC, like those things, like all of the hoops that we had to jump through to try and get those things in a place in a time like where I didn't want to have to rely on them, and having like those choices now, like it's such a game changer. And secondly, I don't think that I ever related to being a millennial as much as I do when I get on Instagram Reels and like start scrolling. And it's like, oh my gosh, I really am a millennial.
Right. And I think that's true. And I know like we're both US based and everyone's like, oh, taxes and all this other stuff. I like to lie to myself and always just think that it's going to the social services. Cause just like you, it's not like anyone's like, yay, I need WIC, right? But I'm just like, you know what? In my head, I'm just like, this money is going towards some people that were like in our situation. I had gotten fired for giving birth and it was completely legal at the time in the US. And so like here we were on a one income household and it was just not enough to provide for all of us. And when we sat down and did the math, and you might have been in a similar situation, right? When you sat down and did the math, it's like, it's literally going to cost us more to put the baby in daycare than for me to stay home.
Yeah.
So we stayed home with the help and then we started the business and then we were able to get off the help.
Totally. And I am newly single. I'm in the middle of going through a divorce, and that was like something that we went through like at the beginning of the year. It was like, okay, I'm having to make these shifts and these changes. And so where should my focus be? Like, do I make these shifts and these changes and in the business? And there's a lot of like trusting God in this season. Like for me, that's something that I lean on. It's like I know that like, okay, these doors are going to open in the way that they're supposed to, or do I figure out how to go back to work? Well, we homeschool and I've got 12 to 8, she just turned 2. So like by the time I would pay for somebody to go to daycare or even just the gas to drive around to get like help, like that, it makes such a big difference on, I mean, there's so many things like where it factors differently and you have to be able to make those choices. And so, yeah, I love that. So we've heard a little bit, but why don't you tell me a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey? Like, why did you get started? Some of those crazy stories. I know there's always like those weird, freakish things or thin threads that have brought you to where you are. So what are some of those and how did you get started?
Sure. So, like I alluded to earlier, I had started my business after I had gotten fired for giving birth. So, I'd had my first daughter. I was working in finance at the time. And so, I had my first daughter, and then I ended up marrying my husband, who's her dad. And we got pregnant with our second one. So, our kids are 17 and a half months apart. And so that is like quite a whirlwind adventure. So probably when our youngest was about like 1.5, things were sort of settled down enough where it's like, all right, like you kind of got a little bit of your cognitive brain back because the baby's like sleeping through the night, right? You kind of have like as much of a routine as you can with, 2 under 2. And it's like, how am I going to get us out of this situation? That was 100% it. Because like my husband was trying his darndest, but he was in social services and that pays hot trash, right? So it's just like, all right, if you don't want to do this anymore, you've got to figure it out. So like I feel, I don't want to say 99% of female business owners, but like 99% of female business owners, I started with a blog, go figure. As somebody who has dyslexia though, writing blog posts always seemed to take absolutely forever. And this was like back in 2016. So like, you can still get like a lot of traffic and stuff from Pinterest, but it just like, it was not quite getting the money there. And so I was hanging out in a lot of entrepreneurial groups and people would be asking questions about like freebies and stuff like this. And like, does this work or what works about the sales page and what doesn't? And I found that I was really good at writing sales copy, which I didn't even know was a thing. It turns out that when you talk a lot and you're great at conversation and you're very intrigued by people and psychology, they're like, copywriting is a thing for you. And that can be quite lucrative. So I started out just with some of the entrepreneurial buddies that I had met when I was doing my old blog, writing landing pages for them, getting recommendations. Then I was, brave enough to start going out on my own. I also got a paid internship with an actual copywriter. I took all of the Copy Hackers course. Still, there's 2 courses in like the best investment ever, but Copy School is always number 1 from Copy Hackers. They're the best. And so I was kind of off to the races and I did copywriting for a while. And then in 2019, I think like a lot of people on one-on-one services, you get a little burnt out and don't want to have to do other people's timelines anymore. So I'm like, the thing I liked the best about writing copy was always launch sequences and stuff. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to teach a course about email marketing. So I went from, a 1 to small audience to 1 to like many. Definitely did not do the most graceful transition as I always told my students. I'm like, when you're a service provider, you don't need to have a huge network, right? Because again, it got to the point where I needed to know a whole bunch of other copywriters because you always have to hand off work because everyone was always busy. So now it's like, okay, right, you want to sell this course and that's fine, but you've got a list of like 100 people. Like, you're great. So you sold it to a lot of people, but like you need to go get those other people. So I do wish that I had kept on a couple of clients like here and there before I'm just like, I'm just doing courses. So lesson learned there, everyone. When you're transitioning from one business model to the other, like keep on just a little bit of extra on there. And I do think that it will help ease the burden just a little bit. And so ever since then, since about 2019, it's just been courses. I occasionally do some coaching. I haven't written copy for anyone else but myself since 2019. And that is kind of where we're here today. Again, I always really enjoyed writing emails and helping people with sales. Again, I think when you come from having no money and since we talked about millennials, I have a very boomer mom. It was like salespeople are like the worst and spending money is awful. And again, her parents were in the Great Depression, right? So it's like there's a lot of like money history that kind of goes along with that. And ironically, it was like I was teaching people how to write, which in like middle school and high school, the English teachers were like, you're bad at this because of learning disabilities. And I was teaching people how to sell, which ironically was something that I was always super against. But I'm like, I can have conversation and like I get people. And I wanted to teach people that you could still love your audience and offer something that was of value, and that when you charge someone, one, it has to feel good to you, but two, as gross as it may sound, when people pay, they pay attention. And so if you really want people to get results, you need to give them a way for them to bet on themselves. Like, yes, still have that free content. Your offers can be low ticket, your offers can be high ticket, but you have to give them a chance to bet on themselves. I think that's like the key thing. So we do a lot of like mindset stuff and copy stuff. That's a very long-winded answer, but that's how we got here.
No, I love it. And like it's like you can almost see my outline here, like because it segued perfectly into, because I wanted to talk about overcoming that shame when selling and making money. And I have to laugh because like I love to write emails. I love to write. I had a blog in the beginning too, until I got over the video thing. And now I'm like, I don't want to write. Like, just let me speak it out. Let me do. I was even
Same.
telling somebody earlier, I was like, I'm just going to start, like, I needed to process something. It was like, I'm just going to start voice recording, like myself, like just talking to myself. And we homeschool as well. So it was like parent teacher conference, employee CEO conference. I've got it all going on, right? Like we're always talking to ourselves. But there's so much, and you hinted on it a little bit, like in the history and our upbringing, we talk all the time about the money mindset and these stories that we tell ourselves about, like, you know, money is evil or rich people are bad. And there's also, I feel like, a difference between getting your paycheck and getting paid as an entrepreneur. So like we have two different things, because a lot of times when we're getting a paycheck from work, I think it's because we can see that exchange. Like we did the work, you get the money, and we don't have a problem there as much as we do when we're an entrepreneur. So for those that are working to overcome that, and it's like, okay, I can logically understand that, like, hey, people will put more skin in the game, but like I still feel icky about it. What types of things would you suggest? What are you working through, like, to overcome that shame when it comes to selling and making money?
I think that you have to realize that people do love to buy things. I think the reason why, and it was a really great example that you had said, when people are going to a job, they realize that they're exchanging those work for hours and they're getting money. And I think us on the flip side of stuff, as the one that's receiving money, we're aware that this person probably had to go to a job that they hated to get the money to pay
Good point.
us. And I think particularly as females, we are conditioned all the time to just do immense amounts of free labor, mental labor, planning, all of that sort of cognitive load that comes around. And so it's like beating us forever that like you're just like serve, 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 serve. So all of a sudden, when now you get a benefit of something, it's like, oh, well, like, who am I? But you have to remember, people are going to spend money anyways. So wouldn't you rather their money go to someone who actually cares about them? Right? Like, if you're like, hey, have you bought something on Amazon recently? No one likes Jeff Bezos, right? But like, people are going to buy stuff over there, right? People have stuff in their wish list. So it's like, all right, when you kind of think of it like that, I think that that can really help. And I know it can sound really silly, but I do think that sometimes really either journaling stuff out, or like us, we're more of a talker, or like having affirmations where you're just like, you know what? It's becoming like safer and safer for me to have money. And again, I don't think it's like I'm not a bad person, but it's like I'm a good person to be a steward of this money, right? So you had talked a lot, about how this season is kind of like, following God's plan and trusting and going for it, right? So it's like, I'm pretty sure as someone that's like a super witch over here, but does have a lot of Christian people, right? Like being a good steward of what you're getting, right? So it's like, you're going to put those money to good funds, right? You are providing people with something that is going to help them. And I was talking about, selling and integrity and honesty. And that's why, like, on sales pages, in emails, like, I'll tell people who shouldn't buy this. And I'm not like, oh, don't buy this if you're not a go-getter, right? For other business owners, right? Or you hate money, right? And like, no, if you're in business A, B, C, and D, this wasn't made for you. So don't get it. If you, because a lot of my products, you have to know who you want to help already at this point and what you want to sell. I don't care who it is. If it's other business owners, if you want to sell crafting principles, but I'm not going to teach you how to niche down. So it's like, if you don't have those two things, don't buy them. It isn't going to work, right? If you already have A, B, C, and D, you probably don't need to do that one either, right? So I think when we are just honest with people and we're not apologetic, right? You have to be, and I think that this can help a lot when it comes to sales and to products. You have to be so excited for the results that your people are going to get that all of a sudden it doesn't matter. So it's not like, oh, yay, like I just made $50. Woohoo, groceries. Well, a half a carton of eggs at this point. Yeah, it's eggs at this. Yay. It's like, I'm so excited because now Tammy is getting a chance to be able to have her house a little bit more organized, which I know makes me feel a lot better. So it's going to make her feel a lot better. Right. And so I think that can help a lot. I also think that people, when it comes to having a business, especially if it is like your brand facing, like I'm katedoster.com, right? Like they have a very hard time separating their self-worth from the business or say from the blog. And so it's like, if the business is not doing well, then you're a bad person, right? If, Sally Sue takes your course, even though you said like, don't buy this if you're A, B, C, and D, she's all of those things. Like, that's on her. She made the bad decision. But you're always going to think, oh my goodness, like it's my fault. I should have done this and that. So it's like, you have to be able to separate yourself from the business, realize that it's okay for you to get money. Like I said, when they bet on themselves are more likely to do something. So I think a lot of those things can kind of help and like, again, deconstruct those things and think about it yourself. Yeah, we all have an incident where maybe we were pressured, like, that weird guy at the mall, he's like, do one of your nails and make it all shiny.
Like
and
attack
then, like,
you.
try to get you to buy the rest. Yeah, right? We've all had those awful sales experiences, but there's also been things that you've been like excited to buy. So I'm like, even if you're like, what's like your favorite outfit that you own, right? Are you like, oh my goodness, I'm so mad that Michael Kors made this purse. No, you're like, oh my goodness, I love this thing. It's the best, right? I've got my ukulele behind me. It's a Fender, and it actually looks like a Fender guitar. I'm not like, how dare you, Fender? I'm like, it's the best thing ever. So you can, start thinking to yourself, people are going to say, this is the best thing ever. And so give them the chance to have that joy too, of having your thing.
I love that. I think there's a little bit, and you talked about it, like the confidence in yourself and the confidence in your offer and knowing that it's for who it's for and the people who are supposed to be in it are going to buy, and removing yourself like from the meaning of it, like when they don't like it or if they don't buy. And like we would talk, I'd love to talk like launch and like emails and just for a second, because I think we've all had quote failed launches, like air quotes for those on the podcast, but like, what does it actually mean to fail? And some of those things, like if we remove the meaning from it, then it's just the data that we need. And you're right. We attach ourselves and our self-worth and all of those things because, it's your personal brand. And that's the thing. I'm like, yeah, it's my personal brand. But like, at the same time, they're like, what's the name of your company? And it's always like, it's me. Like I'm my company, right?
Right. You're allowed to feel disappointed, but you're not a disappointment. Right?
Precisely.
The launch could have failed, but you are not a failure. And sometimes you literally have to like write those sentences down and like, don't feel like a weirdo, guys. Like it is not easy to do this, which is why most people don't, right? It's like, look, again, I'm not a failure, right? But you're allowed to sit down and have your feelings. Like my friend Faith Mariah will talk about, like, you can have those bad feelings for a little bit, but you've got to be able to pull yourself out of it. Again, and this is another thing that both of us say all the time, you are not going to learn how to swim by reading a book. You learn to swim by getting in the water. So even if your launch was quote unquote a failure, you didn't get any sales, right? Or as many sales as you wanted, right? That's when you said, now you've got the data and you've got the gift of practicing. So now you don't ever have to worry about another launch failing because you already had one. So you know what it's like afterwards. You can have your little moment, but then go back and actually look at the analytics that you had. It's like, okay, like where do I think that this kind of went wrong? Right? Oh, well, not enough people were opening or not enough people were getting to the sales page. If you can handle it, and I do think that you all can, right? You can send that email asking people why didn't they buy. Granted, the people that reply back, it's always going to be priced, even if it was like $7. That's just one of those things. So then for you, you're like, okay, and you're not going to like offer them a discount or anything, but you're going to think to yourself, how can I position this next time to make them feel bad that they are only giving me $7 for it? Mm-hmm. And that's the other thing about pricing, I think, where people feel guilty. I don't know how you feel, Amy, about the term charge what you're worth. That, again, does not have enough like separation between like you and the business, because like you're worth $1 bajillion. Like you're a soul in a body, guys. Like no, there's no price tag for that.
There's
But
only one
when,
you.
right, when you have those sort of icky feelings around selling, there's nothing to say that you cannot start low and go high, right? What I don't want to have happen is you to sell something so low for so long that then you feel resentful. That is a problem. So you got to give yourself permission to be like, the only thing I need to do to change the price is hit the delete and another key. And now the price is up or the price is down. So it's not something that has to be like that forever.
Exactly. And people can feel where you're at energetically. So if you're showing up at this higher price point because people tell you you need to price it at a higher price point, but you're not confident in it, they're not even going to know why it's like a no, but it's like, oh, it doesn't feel right. And we are a much more informed buyer society now. Like we're going to buy off of those things because this isn't Amazon and it's not the simple return process and all of those things. Cause I think we've all bought stuff. It's like, oh, we'll try it because it's Amazon. Not a big deal to return it. Right. But we're more intelligent. So start like there's that balance there, charging what you feel confident with, but then being willing to raise it. And I think that resentment piece is a huge piece. I actually did this like as a story of you can change the price whenever you want to change it. I'm revamping my signature program, Money Mastery Academy. So it was set up as like it was always live, a 12-week group coaching program. But I was in a space where I was like, I don't want to run this live all the time. And I had gotten the price points, feedback that it was a thing. I was like, well, I'll make it like a self-study course. And then if I want to run a live cohort, I can run a live cohort. So it was like, okay, well, we're rebranding it. I'm going to do like this pre-sale price on the self-study. So I set it at one price and like had it in my head. I think I set it at 333 and it was going to be 555 like when it was done. And it was like, there is so much in here. Like the sales price is going to be 555 and it's going to go up because like as I went, you could feel where the value was at. So even though I started at one point, I was able to quickly change it. I don't even know that I told anybody like, hey, we're raising the price because it was very like low key, wasn't doing a push on it or anything like that. But you can make changes. It's your business. Like we've talked about, like it's okay to do those things and to feel integrity with that, because if you're not a person of integrity, you're not having those thoughts. So
straight up, like I could not have said that better myself, Amy. Like just straight up, and this is why we get along so well. Because we're like, yeah. And again, here's another thing. Talk about how everyone has had a launch that didn't quite go their way. Everyone has had pricing that didn't quite go their way. Whether it was too low and they were resentful and they thought, now I can't get out of this, and that was kind of me for a little bit with my signature course. Or if it was the other way around, and I'm thinking of another person, she became pretty predominant in the like passive income space over the last couple of, I'd say probably like the last year or so. And she was putting out, I believe it was like a social media course or something like that. And she'd be the first person to tell you they were raising the price to something that was like $500 and literally nobody bought it. Nobody bought it. And she has a huge audience. The second that it went up by $300, nope, everyone stopped. And so one person bought it. So she ended up refunding them the $300 and she ended up dropping the price back down. Yeah. And then she just went to her audience. Granted, she's B2B. I don't know how this would work for B2C, everyone. But I think when you're just honest, just admitted the mistake. So you could tell people if they could be brave with their pricing, right? So you can do the same thing too. Or again, you could have priced it under, different circumstances. Like, hey, like I know that like a lot of people are sort of struggling right now. So we're going to have like inflation pricing for the next little bit. Or like you said, don't say anything and just change the price on your funnels that you've got going out to all of that other stuff. If it feels gross to you because you did have a couple people pay at the higher price point, you could offer them their money back. If you're not in a financial position to do that, you could offer them some type of like either like bonus call with you, right? Like one-on-one stuff is always really great. So there's always, different ways that you can handle the flexibility of pricing. Because I think a lot of us are just like, oh, it has to be set in stone. No, it doesn't.
not at all. We can play with it. It's again, like it's your business. You get to do those things. And when you have the mentality, like you're just going to make it right, I think like, it works. So if you try this and it doesn't work, just like there was great examples on like how we make it work. So we just do that. We're chatting and we're going to talk a little bit about the all treats, no tricks bundle, which before we get into that, I'll just have to say, I have thoroughly enjoyed all of the emails and all of the fun. Like we can tell writing is your strong suit because I feel like you should share some of those emails just because it was so much fun to read. Like for me and for the listeners, like all the things that we have to complete, it was totally like Halloween themed. And like, Halloween's not even like my holiday, like I'll do fall on the pumpkins. We can't see it, but I did a little pumpkin on my calendar when I updated it and all of those things. But like,
Mhm.
it was like, this is so much fun. Like, I have to be involved. But bundles are very popular right now, and I
Mhm.
love bundles because it's truly a way
Same.
for me to get a group of new email subscribers, very low lift, which again, season I'm in, that's definitely what I need. But
Mhm.
how do you go about like monetizing a free bundle? What are some strategies there to stand out? Because great email subscribers are great, but if we don't go anywhere with them, then we're just
Mhm.
paying for people who aren't going anywhere.
Sure. So there's a couple different things. So I have been hosting free bundles, paid bundles, bundles with a free level, a paid level, bundle booster level, all that sort of stuff since 2019. So I've been doing this for roughly 80 million years. So this is not our first rodeo. So when it comes to free bundles, when you are, say, the host of this bundle, you can do things like pay for, I call them VIP spots because for some reason for me, sponsorships just felt weird. I don't know, it felt too corporate. So like for us, we will open up spots where, hey, if you want to be in the bundle, like everyone can. I don't charge an entry fee. Some people do, and I think that's gross to charge everyone an entry fee. But we're like, hey, we got 5 or 6 spots. You're gonna be the first guest on the page. We're gonna highlight you in all of our swipe files. We're gonna make sure people download your stuff. Again, you're gonna give them lists of benefits. It's $200. If it's your first bundle and you want to do 100, if it makes you feel good, do 50, you could do that. So you can recoup some of your time just by selling those VIP spots and the perks that you have. You can, when you have a free bundle, what I always want to make sure, whether you're the host or if you are a person contributing an item, I like, as long as it's per the rules, whatever item I am submitting, I like to have an upsell, like a tripwire, that people could buy immediately afterwards. And you're thinking to yourself, Kate, like if they're in a free bundle and they just got all this stuff for free, are they really going to want to buy things? If your gift makes sense as that first step, and this next thing is the logical step, they'll do it, right? So like if I give away free newsletter templates, right? And then on my thank you page, again, not for setting up for the bundle, but for my actual gift, it's like, hey, we've got your newsletters taken care of, but what about your launch emails? What about your welcome series? What about if you have a whole bunch of cold subscribers and you haven't emailed people in forever? Well, now I've got this paid product that's like, $29. I'm not trying to sell them astronomically, right? So you can try
Right.
selling on your thank you page, right? There's that way. You can, if you're the host, you can have a resources section where it's like, hey, if you appreciated this free bundle, you're thinking of buying any of these other things, if you want to go through our links, that would be super awesome. And I don't want to say you'd be surprised, but a lot of people are just like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, how can we repay you? Well, if you're looking to buy a Thrive cart, you can head right over here, right? Because again, I feel like people really do want to reciprocate. So again, now we've got selling VIP spots. We've got having your tripwire that makes sense for the item you put in. So this goes for anyone contributing to a bundle and not just hosting. Don't just throw whatever. Throw something that makes sense in your ecosystem, that way you have some next steps. And whether or not you don't sell on that thank you page, because you don't have to, you want to make sure, regardless, host or not, what is your after plan for these people? That is like the biggest thing where people fall short, right? They'll just send them into the normal buyer series for whatever that particular item was and then dump them into their newsletter. It's like they're going to need, especially if they're brand new or they got us for free, like they're going to need to get to know you more. You're going to probably want to cross sell, talk about other products that you have. If you don't have any other product, because say maybe this is like your first thing kind of paid that you just threw in this bundle, right? Where else can you have them come? Can you have them listen to your podcast? Can you have them go to YouTube? So that way maybe you can get monetized, right? Always thinking of that next step. Can you, and this is what I teach all of my students, is that when you are planning a bundle, you're going to plan it around a launch. So this is our bundle ramp up system that we've got, right? It's like, okay, when are you going to launch something? The month or so before, have this free bundle, or even like 2 weeks before, depending on what it is. Mine, it just so happened that my birthday is the 4th of November and I'm turning 40. So mine happened to be the week before that we ran our bundle. It's our 2-week birthday bonanza that's kicking off with the all treats, no tricks bundle. So like for me, it's like this. So it's like, okay, again, making sure that it makes a lot of sense. When I had my full signature course for, it was called Love Your List at the time for email marketing. It was like, I would always put in for email templates. On the thank you page, it would always be the upsell to my product that I still do have, the email marketing fairy. That's all the templates. And guess what? I'm inviting them to the webinar for my course that I have. Or if you have a webinar funnel set up, right, in that welcome series for your item, get people to your auto webinar funnel, right? Like, hey, I know that we've got this, this, and this, but what about X, Y, and Z? It's this. So you just want to make sure that you have a plan for people on the back end as well. What's really nice for our contributors is that because of the timing of my birthday and how it all worked out, that is about 4-ish weeks right before Black Friday, because Black Friday and Cyber Monday are, I don't want to say later, but they're later, because I think Cyber Monday is December 1st this year. So like, it's going to give people, like, yes, they're going to have a bit higher, more unsubscribes than they normally would. And I tell all that contributors that that's the name of the game, they know, but a lot of people do stick around. Now they've got a month or so to be able to knock people's socks off, and they have new people to launch to for Black Friday.
Yeah.
So that's your after plan. You know, sell on your thank you page, you have resources sections. Again, maybe the gift that you give people, again, because it's always going to lead to hopefully something bigger or something you're planning on doing bigger. Maybe there, if you don't have another product, you can talk about like others, like your affiliate links for things that can help people out, those sorts of things. So there's a lot of different ways that you can monetize a free bundle. And one of the ways that we tell our students is you can offer, I don't call it free plus level. I call it a bundle booster level, which is for like $7. That's all we're asking, $7, right? But like $7, you can give people like an Airtable database or a like Google spreadsheet or Trello board or Notion doc to help them keep track of all the items that they have. You can give them extra time. You can give them access to live calls. So it's not like you're like throwing more stuff at them, right? But it's just like, oh, for $7 more, if you want to have an extra 2 weeks to go through this bad boy, then give us $7. So there's a lot of different ways that you can monetize.
I love it. What on the thank you page or the Tripwire, what do you see average conversion rate from the bundle specifically?
So we make sure that we have like a separate checkout page and a separate version of the same thank you page that like we use for all of our Tripwires. And oh God, what was it? I know it was over 10%. I have to see, because we use it for a lot of different bundles, especially, and I'm not shocked, when we host our own bundle, obviously the conversion rate goes up a lot higher because it's people that know me. So it's one of those like, oh, and I would get a discount on her stuff. Like, of course I'll buy it. So it can be like 15, which is like astronomical for like a Tripwire page. No, any sales page ever is only supposed to be between 1% and 2%. So like, if you're getting like 5, it's like ridiculous, right? So it all depends. My friend Lainey Lamar, when she was still running her business, she has a whole podcast where she broke down all the analytics from being my actual bundle. And she was like, yeah, she's like, I had more unsubscribes. And she's like, technically the Tripwire didn't perform as well, but it still got a really high conversion rate. So I think that it's just making sure where it's like, oh, okay. And I know some people now, again, this depends on the host and depends on your own style. A lot of people are sending people to a ThriveCart checkout page. So they might just have like an order bump, where it's like, hey, it's like, you're getting this thing for free. It's completely all yours. Click here if you want to add this other thing. Again, I wouldn't make this other thing because you only have like this much space, guys, a couple sizes. I wouldn't make it like super high cost. I was like, hey, you got this. However, the next step is this. It's like $7, $12, $18. You can have this. Again, just make sure for your bundle host it's okay. So like for ours, you're allowed as a contributor to have that. It cannot automatically be turned on. And the other thing that we don't allow is, because there's no way around it, or I think one person figured it out. With ThriveCart, sometimes if you're using its native upsell feature, it'll require that people put in payment information for a free item, and that we just don't use. Like, you can't do that to be in our bundle.
I hate when they do that.
You can't. I'm like, you can't. However, you can have ThriveCart redirect to a thank you page that you have on your website that has that offer on it, right? That has that second ThriveCart checkout page. Like, that's fine. Recreate it on your own site, but it can't be the native one, or you can't be in our bundle. I'm sure somebody, one person figured it out, and we have to ask them. I'm like, oh, how did you do that? No one has to, because then it would be a lot easier, because then we could show our contributors how to do it. But usually just from all sorts, like, they can't enter anything or like have to click like PayPal and then continue it. No. That's the other thing you'll find that you'll appreciate as a contributor and as a host, as organized as like the host can be. And I don't want to see like as rigid, because again, everyone is technically doing everyone a favor, but you always want to think to yourself, if I just think of my mom, if she is like 68. So it's like, if my mom is attempting to sign up for any of this, what would confuse her? Right. Yep. And we just don't allow it. Nope.
Simple.
It's got to be possible. Because again, you want people to be in your bundle again, right? You want everyone to have a great experience. If poor Amy is getting support ticket people because somebody else in my bundle was trying to like bamboozle them and make them put in their credit card so they could have their upsell, Amy shouldn't have to deal with it because Tammy decided that she wanted to like try to do this upsell and get it past me, Kate, the actual host, right? Like that's not fair for Amy. So that's why we try to do it that way. Like, okay, how can we make this as like mom proof as possible?
Yes, I love that. That's a good lens to look at it. It's kind of like the reverse of like the fifth grader, because I know like my 12-year-old, so he's seventh grade now. Like there's times where they can be, I mean, I'm decently techie, but like there's times where he does things and I'm like, I don't know how the heck you did that. So that whole like make it the fifth grader level that doesn't necessarily work anymore when they're getting so tech savvy and all of that. Um, I have, I guess, a thought here to add on with the Tripwire conversion rate, because I know my Tripwire technically converts a little bit lower than industry standard, and I know that. But I also feel like it serves very well, or feel, I can see the data, that the people who do take the Tripwire, they're primed for the problem that I solve. So less people take it, but they're more primed to take my higher end back level because they know like, hey, I've got all this stuff and it's overwhelming. I'm not doing it as it is. So like when you take the Tripwire, then they're more likely to do that. So that's another thing to look at, like with your data.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it goes back to the data, like knowing the numbers. So offering that, but also looking like, hey, maybe this converts a little bit lower, but yes, we're going to see what we can tweak and get that to convert higher. But the people that are converting, are they the people that you really want to be working with?
Exactly. What lifetime value of people. And again, it's not like necessarily subsection. I'm not, one of these people is like, okay, you're going to have an upsell and a downsell and this. But it's like, okay, especially when we did have our bigger email marketing course, it's like, all right, like we're going to, and the buyer series for the email marketing fairy, like we're going to talk about love your list. And we would even give coupons back to people where it's like, hey, you bought this, you can get $36 off of the bigger course. It worked like gangbusters, just like you said. And you guys don't have to offer coupon codes for people to step up in your bigger thing. But like you had said, the people that you do get there convert really high. And that's what matters.
All right, this has been amazing. Let's talk a little bit about the All Treats No Tricks bundle, because of course it's live, the bundle that you're hosting and that I'm contributing in. So yeah, why don't you share about that for a second?
Sure. So you can go to katedoster.com/treats. I'll do it with and without the S just in case, because again, mom proof, right? So we've got both for everyone. When you do, you're going to put in your information to be able to unlock our bonus sort of bundle claim area. So because I know like in our industry, like a lot of people do bundles, so they're familiar, but again, you never know. And people tend to get overwhelmed with all the choices. We do have our All Treats No Tricks bundle success roadmap. We're like, I'm going to tell you how to like get the absolute most out of this bundle. And everyone gets a copy of that completely for free. Like I said, it's part of my birthday celebration. We have 40 gifts. I think it ends up being 41, but I'm like, 40 is so much cooler because I'm turning 40. So we've got about 40 to 41 gifts that we have over there. And we really, really tried with this bundle, even though it's free, right? To only have one expert per topic pillar. So that way it's not like, oh, it's like, this is like 8 free things on how to start a blog. It's like, no, we have one blogger person, right? We do have somebody that talks about monetizing a newsletter, but then like there's newsletter templates. I'm like, that's further apart. Where I'm like, that's okay, right? We got people talking about Instagram. We have somebody how to write your book in 30 days. That course is really nice. But we've got Amy's, which hopefully she'll talk about hers as well over there. We have selling in Instagram DMs with automations, right? We have graphics that you can use to be able to sort of sell your products. We've got Pinterest templates. I try to always think to myself, what is something that somebody is going to need to either make their holidays easier or to really set themselves up for 2025? Because I know 2024 wasn't necessarily the easiest for a lot of people, right? So I'm like, okay, like what kind of like cool things can we get in there? And I'm super happy. We have stuff for service providers. Usually I work mostly with people that sell digital products, but we do have a certain section just for people that have clients where it talks about like those awkward conversations that you have to send with people, like you're raising your price. So we have free templates for that. We've got some legal templates in there. We have all sorts of stuff. It's really amazing. It's all 100% free as long as you sign up by November 1st at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, because that's where I'm at. You have until the 3rd, so until it actually turns my birthday on the 4th, to be able to claim everything. So you've got like the weekend to go through everything. We have our system where it's not just like an endless scrolling page. We have it where you can actually like search for Amy's name. So that way you're like, where's Amy's stuff immediately? If she's not showing up as the first 3, you can type Amy, right? Get that in there. grab Amy's gift. You can sort it by price, so what they normally would sell for on somebody's website. You can sort it by, we have big topic pillars, because since everyone has their own unique topic, I couldn't be like Instagram, Pinterest, podcasting, like it would go forever. So we broke it up into 4 sections. So it's like attraction, right? So if you need eyeballs, go over here. If you need conversions, go here. If you need help creating your paid digital products / courses / all of that sort of stuff, go here, right? So we've got those sort of bigger sections. But again, you could just search, because it has an actual search bar. You could just search the word Instagram and it come up. We do have it by type. So you could just go, I just want templates, and it'll just show you everything that's a template.
I love it. I normally, when they send out the, hey, check your stuff, if there's a search feature, I'm always searching my name, because it makes it so much easier to find. Right. But my money mindset makeover blueprint is what's going to be a part of this bundle. And honestly, it's not a course that I normally put in a bundle. I don't think I've ever actually included this one in a bundle, but reading through the description, I was like, no, this is exactly where it needs to be. So this conversation today, we talked a lot about mindset and money and the way to shift some of those things. And that is really what that course is designed to do, is take you from scarcity to success when it comes to your mindset. You know, we talk all the time about like, it's the spot where we never arrive. So I'm really excited to be able to share access to that. Of course, we'll put the link for the bundle down in the show notes. If you're listening to this after the fact, make sure to go check it out, because I'm sure Kate's got it all set up. You can grab free treats, whatever it is, new option. I cannot talk all of a sudden. New offers, etc. But real quick, I know you host a podcast as well. Why don't you give us names of that, links, how to connect with you online? We'll make sure all of that's included so our listeners can connect with you.
Sure. So I have the Do the Brave Thing online business podcast. I do seasons. So at the time that we're recording this, technically we're in a little bit of a hiatus. So the fall season is going to be starting soon. So it'll be started by the time this one comes up. We're going to be interviewing some of the VIPs from this bundle, actually, that we have coming up. So I will talk a lot about sales, about email marketing. One thing that I've really enjoyed doing, and I tend to do in the summertime, is listeners will send me in questions, and I will just riff on a question for, I say 6 minutes in air quotes. If you guys couldn't tell I'm a talker, usually ends up going to 8. But I figured summer in 6 just sounds really cool. So we have our summer in 6 series, and people actually really, really love that. And so that's pretty much now I'm coming up with all of the topic episodes. It's all just going to be listener questions. Some of them will be 6 minutes. Others of them are a little bit longer. We have one on starting a podcast that ended up being like a whole masterclass pretty much for 40 minutes. But I do talk fast. I've been informed by many people I'm the only person they don't listen to on 1.5x speed. I'm like, I always listen to myself. I've been told that too. 1.5x speed. Again, maybe it's because we're from up north, right? Like, I know I'm in New England. I know you're like Chicago area, right?
No, I'm down south. I'm in Texas.
Oh, you're in Texas, right? So I'm just like, oh God, in Texas, they would have no clue what I'm saying. No clue at all, maybe. So you can listen to that in there. But it's one of those things, I talk fast because I get excited, and I get really excited, just like Amy, when people realize that like, it's okay to make money. It is okay to tell people about your offer, right? Like, you don't have to pressure them. Selling doesn't have to be a nasty word. Because again, I'm not trying to convince anyone, truly. I'm trying to, I don't want to say unconvince them to buy, because I would never apologize. But like, I want them to be like, I'm really excited I bought this. Again, I'm really excited for this Fender ukulele. It's the best. I call her Roxanne. So I want people to think that about my product and my services. So we talk a lot about that. Again, it's one of those things, and this is why we absolutely love Amy's product in the bundle, is if you have ever said to yourself, and I feel like this comes into play a lot with health and fitness, but it does for business too. If you ever said to yourself, I know what I should be doing, but like, I don't do it, right? One of those things, like, I know I should be drinking like a gallon of water, but I don't. Usually, unbeknownst to you, you want to blame all these excuses. Usually it's your brain or your habits that are holding you back, which is why Amy's course, definitely guys, if it's still open, go and download it 1000%. I mean, you know, you're listening to this podcast. She's great. But like, if you can get your brain to do something on repeat, it's not going to work. And if you always think that like money is evil and you're the worst, you might be able to break through that like once, but you're not going to do it repeatedly, and you're not going to actually change the core value underneath it. That's why Amy's course is so powerful. That's why head over to katedoster.com/treats. So that way you can get it. You got until Friday, everyone. Oh, and if you want to hang out with me on Instagram, I, like many people with ADHD, go through spurts where I post every day and then I don't post again for 3 weeks. It happens. But I really do like playing over on Instagram. It's been pretty fun. I think I got mad at it because I took a 2-week break and then they put me in Instagram jail. Not literally, but like my views went to like 4. Yeah, so you have to just remind yourself, at least those 4 people are getting something out of this, right? Which is why anytime I follow my friends, I wouldn't even look at their posts, but I'll always like it just to give them some engagement or be like, yes, like just something to help your friends out.
It's a little boost. I love that you use that phrase, if you know what to do and you're just not doing it. I'm pretty sure that phrase is on the Tripwire copy because I talk about that all the time.
Right? This is why I love Amy so much. We were so excited that she said yes. It was all over. And I don't know if Amy is going to use the swipe files we created, but like, because, as a bundle host, you want to let people to promote. I do have some Halloween pun-filled ones. And I'm like, I really hope our contributors use these. I don't think that they will. The registration page will have lots of Halloween puns. Granted, our branding, we're like, it's not like, it reminded me more of like Wicked rather than Halloween per se, even though we do have orange, but it was more relies on the purple and a little bit of green type scenario. So come on.
I will definitely be using them. So if you are not on my list and you want to see, like, make sure you sign up because I've enjoyed it.
They're fantastic.
All right. Thank you so much, Kate. I'll make sure all the links are down below in the show notes and we'll see you next time, guys. Bye for now.
Bye.
If you're struggling with shame and guilt around your finances, whether it's debt, impulse spending, mistakes from the past, or the fact that you still haven't hit your income goal, then it's time for you to work with me. There are different levels of support and price points that you can use on the path to removing that guilt and shame so you can step into your unstoppable life. After all, your finances are unique to you, and your support should be too. Go to workwithamy.com to get started with one of my most popular programs, or you can book a Q&A call with me and we'll figure out what that next step should be. And those links are hanging out in the description of this video as well.